Hey students, this is Mr. Bergen, and I'm going to try to help you to take your tessellation in lesson 2 and make it perfect so that you can deal with what happens at the borders. So this code that I'm going to share with you is going to help you. Okay, let's take a look at a square tessellation done in lesson 2 by someone named AJ from Louisiana. And AJ wrote, "Not as hard as I thought." And the square tessellation is kind of cool. You can see it on the left in terms of what it's done. The cat draws red squares here until it hits the border. And when it hits the border, right, it stops everything and we get a partial tessellation. Right? Well, in lesson 3, we don't want a partial tessellation. We want a full tessellation. We want the whole stage filled with red squares. So what we do is we take a look at the main program. Here's the main program, and we see where the tessellation begins, and we isolate it into its own sub-program. Now, if you use events, you have when I receive and broadcast. And that's going to be essential for this lesson 3 activity. We're going to broadcast a message here that says do the square tessellation. So I can either use message 1 or I can go new message and I could say do the square tessellation. And so that's like someone shouting, "Hey, do the square tessellation." And then you have a companion, which is when I receive the command to do the square tessellation. So this doesn't solve the problem, but it sets the stage for that. So now when the main program runs, the end of the main program is do the square tessellation. And now we're going to change this so that when it touches the border, it's not going to stop, but instead it's going to pick up the pen. So of course that's pen up. Go back to the center, but we don't want to see the cat being drawn, so that's why the pen is up. So we go to the center, which we call the origin, which is 0, 0. Then we're going to put the pen down. We're going to make sure the cat is oriented to point in direction 0. So that's another command, point in direction 0. And we're basically replicating what was in the setup. We're not clearing the screen, however, so the cat goes back to the middle. And now we're going to say, let's do the square tessellation. Right? So now we broadcast, right, using the brown section, broadcast to right when it's touching the edge. And I think that's right what I've put into the PDF for lesson 3. I'm going to check here. If touching the edge, pen up, goes 0, 0, point in direction 0, pen down, broadcast. Yep, it's exactly the same. And now the cat is going to, when it hits the border, it's going to put the pen up, go to the middle, and keep drawing. And therefore, if I come back in 33 minutes, I will have a perfect tessellation of these red baby squares filling the screen. Many things I can do to make this fancy. But one that's so obvious is I'd love to keep track of how often the cat has to go back to the middle. I think it just went back to the middle if you're doing that. So You can easily enhance this program to have with your skill, which hopefully is good now, a variable called counter. And you could say when the program begins, counter is set to 0. And every time it has to go back to the middle, you can change counter by 1. And then if you look up in the upper left, and I'll make that bigger so you can see it, it's telling me that it hasn't gone back to the middle. Now it has. Counter is 1. This can be moved any way you want. And if you press shift down, you can make a large readout so it tells you how many times. Or you can hold shift down and you can make a slider. And now it will slide from left to right. So far it's gone back to the middle twice. It's working as fast as it can, and you can see it moving there, right? You can make the cat scream when it has to go back to the middle, right? You can do all sorts of clever things, but you will be the proud owner of a tessellation that you made, right? Once you come back in 33 minutes, right? And there it is. Now it's done it 3 times. Okay? So this is lesson 3. We're calling it Perfecting the Square, Tessellation at the Borders, right? And congratulations, by the way, to AJ from Louisiana, and also anyone else. A whole bunch of you have done the square tessellation, so good job. All right, Mr. Bergen signing off, and go do it and tessellate. Bye, everybody.